Every year, we make goals for ourselves and for our business, especially if you're a business person watching this video. We set personal goals like we want to lose weight, we want to learn a new language, we want to learn a new sport, or simply just be more productive as a person. And maybe as a business, you want to grow your business, reach a certain number. How do we really achieve those goals? This two-part video, the first part I'll be sharing goal setting for your personal development, and then the part two of this video is goal setting for your business. It's December already, and I'm sure some of you have done their goal setting. I have personally done my goal setting for the business, and I'm currently doing my goal setting for myself. And I want to share with you my goal setting tips, how I set goals, and how it has helped me create a vision for myself and for our business. When we try to create New Year's resolution, it's really hard to stick to New Year's resolution. The reason we cannot stick to New Year's resolution is because we focus on what we want to do, not on who we want to be. We should focus on who the person we want to be when setting goals. That's a very important thing when setting goals for yourself. In one of my previous vlogs, I talked about the lessons that I've learned from the book, The Atomic Habits by James Clear. One of the things he introduced in his book is the concept of identity-based habits. This principle states that habits are not about what you do, but about who you are. What does this mean? It means that you need to decide first who you want to be before you can set meaningful goals. That is something that you must remember when setting goals, either for yourself or for your business. So let's discuss the 3 simple step-by-step guide that I have come up with to set meaningful goals, starting from determining who do you want to be before you set those goals for yourself. So the first thing that you should do is to reflect on your identity. As you reflect on your identity, the first thing that you should identify are your current habits. What are your current habits? How are they supporting or hindering your goals? So like, for example, do a personal audit on what habits that you have, listing down the good habits and the bad habits that you have. For me, I have a habit tracker in my nutrition planner. My habits are making sure I eat healthy to maintain my blood sugar levels, walking every morning, or at least 30 minutes a day, reading a book, and doing a daily devotion, spending time with God. List down some of the bad habits that you want to eliminate. Like, for example, one of the habits that I want to reduce is scrolling on Facebook. As a business also, sometimes we need to be on social media, and sometimes when I'm on social media to post on the business, I end up scrolling and looking at other people's feed. Another habit that I want to remove is procrastinating. If I can do things now, I tend to postpone them. Those are some of the habits that I want to remove. Step 1 in creating goals for yourself is reflect on your current identity by listing down your habits. And the next is list down your values. So for me, my values are integrity, family, lifelong learning. How do your current actions reflect these values? Next is list down your strengths and weaknesses. When you list down your strengths and weaknesses, you have an audit of what you're good at and what your weaknesses is. It doesn't mean that you improve your weaknesses, but sometimes we have to rely on our strengths, and that's something that we can do. And then another thing is, while you're reflecting on yourself and doing a self-audit, is writing down your fears and challenges. What are your biggest fears and challenges and how you can overcome them? A good way to reflect on these habits, values, strengths and weaknesses, fears and challenges is doing a journal. Journaling can be a powerful tool, and when you write down these things, it will give you clarity. When you start writing them down and read them to yourself, you'll realize that this is my values and are my current actions reflecting these values. So when you write down those things, it gives you clarity. The next step to goal setting is defining your ideal self. Once you actually list down your core values and then your strengths and your weaknesses, and once you do actually this audit of yourself, you will realize what you want to really be. When you define your ideal self, define your ideal future. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? For me, my ideal self is someone who have raised kids who are kind, who are caring of others, who are responsible. I want to be someone as well who had inspired and helped others achieve their dreams. Someone who have gained a lot of wisdom and who share this wisdom to others. When you define your ideal self, list down your ideal future. List down your dreams and aspirations. One of my dreams and aspirations is to be able to speak to a large audience or on a TED Talk. So before I can do that, I should be expert at one thing, or I should have made a difference in the world. I want to build a foundation that helps children who cannot afford good education. This is something that I've dreamt about since I was a child. When you did an audit, you would realize that your actions reflect these values. But what are your desired values? If your desired value is lifelong learning, do you spend more time playing video games than reading a book? If your desired value is health, do you have bad habits that are detrimental to your health? These are the things that you want to list down. What are your desired values? Under this step of defining your ideal self is, what is the public perception that you want to have? How do you want others to see you? Life is short and we all will die. We'll all leave a legacy behind. The question is, what is the legacy you want to leave behind? One thing that I'm definitely sure of is I want to raise kids who are kind, follow Christ, who makes a difference in the world. And I myself want to be an inspiring person who has helped a lot of people and have inspired a lot of people. So this is what I want others to see me, and that's the legacy I want to leave behind. When you list down your ideal self, you have to be clear and specific. This is actually the roadmap for your journey in goal setting. If you're having a hard time listing down your ideal self, try closing your eyes for a while, for a few minutes. Close your eyes and imagine your future self. That's a good exercise for you. Find a quiet place at your home or in nature. No sound, no distractions, and think about the future self. What does it look like to you? And answer these questions. Who do you aspire to be? What is your ideal future? What are your deepest desires and ambitions? What ignites your soul? What excites you? And then what do you want to embody in your ideal self? How do you want others to perceive you? The third step now, once you have defined your ideal self, is now for you to create your identity-based habits. What are the habits that will support and lead you to this ideal self? What are the habits that will take you there? It's time for you to list down the daily, the weekly, and the monthly habits that will help you reach your ideal self. So once you have identified or defined the ideal self, it's time for you to create your identity-based habits. The first step is actionable habits. List down the weekly, daily habit, and monthly habits that you can implement for you to achieve this ideal self. What are the small steps you can take each day, each week, for you to get closer to that ideal self or ideal future? After you list down this actionable steps, the next step is for you to be consistent. How do you become consistent in implementing these actionable habits? Some of these habits are very hard to implement. One of the habits that I used to struggle with is stopping myself from gaming or playing video games from my phone. To remove those bad habits is for me to uninstall those apps. Because whenever I had free time, whenever I find myself having extra time, or I'm like sitting waiting in the doctor's office, or I'm sitting and waiting for someone, or I'm bored and I want to take my mind off things, I tend to go to those apps to make me feel good, but then I feel worse after playing a game for 1 hour or 2 hours, because I should have used those time instead in growing my business, writing a blog post, or reading a book. To remove that bad habit, I had to keep it away, make it inaccessible. I had to remove those apps to help me be consistent in my habit of reading, my habit of growing the business. The next one is small steps. Remember, progress versus perfection. Once you start small and be consistent on those small steps, you'll see that it's easy for you to achieve those impossible habits for you. You think that's impossible. Once you start with small steps and you gain momentum, you'll see that you'll be able to achieve those goals, and you'll be able to achieve those habits and be consistent on those habits. Now we go to something that I've been doing every year. I've done this with my team before a few times already. We're planning to do this thing this month before the year ends, and this is vision boarding. So what's the vision board? So to solidify your goals, I like to create a vision board. When you create a vision board, make sure you put this vision board somewhere that is accessible, because when you see this, it will constantly remind you of the ideal self, and then this will fuel your passion. This will fuel you to become consistent and will help you strive and remind you of the ideal self and ideal future you want to achieve. This is my vision board last year. So what is your vision board? I prepare my vision boards by collecting my old magazines. If you cannot find your ideal self, if you don't resonate with those images that you see in the magazines, you can easily draw, cut out images, quotes, words, and affirmations that will remind you of your ideal self and your goals. When you look at your vision board, it's your emotional connection to your goals, to your plans, to the ideal self that you want to be. That will help fuel you to reinforce and strive and work hard to keep those habits consistent. My additional tips after you create this, after you have pictured your ideal self and you have created a step-by-step way for you to achieve it by actionable habits and identity-based habits, I want you to focus on these 4 things. Focus on progress, not perfection. Celebrate small wins. Don't be afraid to fail. Some of us will think of it like, oh, I haven't done this habit. Like you have been consistent on a habit until January, February, and then you're failed on that habit in March. Then you think you're a failure already, but don't give up. That's one thing. Failure is not the end of it. You have to strive and keep going. And one more thing is seek support. So that's why it's very important for you to build a community. I constantly seek help from my fellow Christian moms or my friends who are business owners who share the same values. If you're creating goals for yourself, align your goals to your fate. The ideal future that I want to achieve is when I die and go to heaven, and when I see God, I want God to tell me that, well done, good and faithful servant. I want to be someone who God says I have done while I was here on earth. I have shared His word and His gospel and the good news. And I want to grow spiritually and be able to share the word to someone and help someone grow in their faith as well. When you set your goals for the new year, I want you to make them also realistic as well. Although sometimes we think of it like, oh, it's impossible for me to achieve this ideal self. But I want you to believe in yourself and have faith in God. I want you to pray for God's guidance, pray for God's strength, because of course, life can be difficult, especially when you try to achieve high and impossible goals. But with God's strength, nothing is impossible with God. Persevere and you continue to pray. You can achieve anything. So my prayer for you is for you to have a blessed year and for you to be able to achieve your goals for this coming year. And remember that we're here to support each other, and I want to support you and I want to be able to lift you up and inspire you. If you like this video, please hit the like button and do subscribe for more. Thank you. And watch the second part of this video where we talk about goal setting for business.